Welcome to the Award 7 podcast. I'm Rob Lucuria.
I'm candidate for California Governor Charlie Bright.
And I'm Tony Ruiz.
Today, we are really excited to be doing a bit more of a deep dive into the Emmys. We're in Emmys Phase 1 already, people. The year is flying by. Before you know it, we'll be watching the Emmy show. So let's start to actually dig deeper. Today, we will be focusing on the Best Supporting Actress in a Drama Series category by looking at the main contenders that we think are in the running, some actors who are maybe on the fringe who could break through as dark horses, and maybe we might even do a couple of little wish casting nods to those actors that we really want to see nominated, but perhaps maybe are not necessarily in a show that the Emmys tend to go for. Once we've done that, we'll do a quick check-in on what we're watching. I'm sure we have plenty of things to talk about there. And then to keep the theme going, we'll do a top 5 Best Drama Supporting Actress Emmy wins of all time. So let's dive in, gentlemen. I'm actually really looking forward to hearing what y'all have to say. And I think probably the best thing to do is to I might just mention that the drama supporting categories are going to be chock full of actors from the pit. Take that to the bank, okay? And now that I've seen the whole second season, finally, I can now join the fan club with Tony and Charlie and say that it was an outstanding second season. And I think, frankly, you could fill up both categories with just actors from this show. I hope that doesn't happen because I do like other shows as well. But let's think of it this way, guys. I'm going to go to you first, Tony. Catherine Lanasa is out front. She's the incumbent winner from last year, and I don't really see a reason why she can't win again. Those episodes towards the end of the season, even there's a couple at the beginning of the season, as soon as she comes on screen, it's like it's a breath of fresh air. It's an interesting, compelling performance, a portrayal of a woman where you can see so much of her backstory even just by the way she delivers her lines. Catherine Lanasa, Tony, what are your thoughts?
Oh God, I mean, there's been a lot of chatter online about whether she could go lead, and I think she absolutely could, and I think she'd be a real threat to win. I don't think that's going to happen. I think she's going to stay supporting, maybe for this season. I can definitely see a world in which she pulls an Allison Janney and at season 3 goes up to lead. But I mean, I just think that she's everybody's favorite character on the show. I mean, when the entire internet, when one of the questions all the pit actors get asked on the red carpet is to do their version of Lanasa saying "Baby Jane Doe," I mean, come on. That's iconic. On top of that, she won last year in what I thought was she had a very good episode, and she was it was a very divided field thanks to the domination of the White Lotus in that category. But this year, her material was just so, she had like about, I would actually say kind of mid-season, episodes like 7, 8, 9, and 10, where it was just one showcase after the other. And for me, and I think it'd be really interesting to see if you guys feel the same or if you have different highlights. For me, one of the big highlights was the rape kit episode, where, I mean, that was handled so beautifully, and that entire sequence of her just doing the step-by-step of taking someone through doing a rape kit was so gut-wrenching, and yet was so subdued, and you could tell that Dana was really keeping it together, but they also gave her some moments to just where Lanasa's face just breaks. And then she pulls it back so fast. For me, that was kind of like her shining moment. And then you have like the stuff towards the end with the violent guy
The drunk
who attacks
patient.
the student. Yeah, the drunk
Oh
patient.
yeah,
And then
she's
the
really
stuff with
pissed.
Robbie, the stuff with Robbie at the end. I mean, to me, it's a slam dunk. She would, I think, be the front runner even under the old tape system.
Oh yeah,
I think there's 4 episodes she could submit that would just blow everybody out of the water. And under the old tape system, I think she'd even be even more of a lock because chances are what other people would submit
yeah.
would also feature her. So for me, she's kind of to me, it's kind of a no-brainer to put her in.
Yeah. Charlie, before you go on, I just also want to mention not only does she have the tapes, but as Tony alluded to, that this viral moment about the baby Jane's out. I have Gen Z kids, and when they're walking around the house and I'm watching the show, they're like, "Oh, is she going to say baby Jane Doe?" I'm like, "How do you know about that?" They're like, "Oh, it's all over TikTok." So, like, she's
It
really
is.
bled into the like society and culture and pop culture this season. So to me, like, it's just there's no way that she's not probably winning this. Although I really hate it when people do that. She hasn't even been nominated yet. So let's just say she's certainly the front runner in this category. Charlie, what about you? What do you think?
I mean, I second everything Tony said. I think she just has in the old tape system. She has an embarrassment of riches in terms of material and different episodes that would be that we would just say are most likely slam dunks. Although I hesitate to describe anything at the Emmys as slam dunks even now. But yeah, I think her material was just, and I think her the best material is that episode immediately when she helps when she subdues the violent patient, and then when Robbie starts giving her shit, she starts taking him to task. Um, she was just extraordinary, and if she was able to win last year for a season where I felt like she was a bit more of a background character than she was this year. I mean, this year is just no question. It's unbelievable what her material is.
Right.
I think it'll be interesting to see which other cast members get nominated with her, though. I think that's going to be the real interesting thing. Right now, I'm only predicting Taylor Dearden to make it in, but I wouldn't be surprised if I can't remember the character's name, but the one who's the real dick who's living with who Whitaker's living with.
Santos.
Santos. I
Oh,
wouldn't be
Issa
surprised to see her.
Briones. Yeah, yeah.
Javadi, the girl who plays
Giovanni.
Javadi, is
Sepideh
excellent.
Moafi. Yep.
Yeah, she was fantastic. I wouldn't be surprised to see them make it in either.
Oh, Javadi. Javadi is I've forgotten the actor's name, but let's see if I can just name them all. So we because I think you're right. Let's talk about who else can make it in.
I
Not on
do
the
want to.
coattails of Emma.
I do want to add. There was one when we were talking about guests 2 weeks ago. There was one who I forgot to put in there and this is in guest actress, and that's Tal Anderson, who plays Becca, Mel's sister.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm
She was
surprised.
excellent and actually surprisingly funny with her storyline. Me and my mom were just chuckling the whole time with that. We thought it was very funny.
In the Gold Derby odds, she's actually very high up in the guest actress list right now. So there's a lot of users and people at Gold Derby who are predicting her to be nominated. So that's going to be really exciting. These are the main actors in the in the supporting drama actress category that have a chance. So it's Taylor Dearden, who plays Mel, Issa Briones is Dr. Santos, Fiona Dourif plays Dr. Cassie McKay, Supriya Ganesh plays Dr. Samira Mahan. And then Shabana Aziz, well, I should have gotten her name right. She's Aussie, by the way, who plays Javadi. And Sebadeh Moafi plays Al Hashimi. And I think
He
they're the
was
main
very good.
ones. Yeah, like that's what I mean. They could fill up the whole category. And this has happened before with other shows, as Tony alluded to with The White Lotus, or maybe it was you, Charlie, I can't remember. And back in the day,
It was Tony.
you'd have like lots of actors from The Practice or the NYPD Blue, or so there is no way that they're not going to at least get another, maybe two. So Tony, out of those actors that I just mentioned, who because a lot of people are saying Taylor Dearden, but I'm not 100% sure on that because I think Issa Briones is actually right up there. I know her character is unlikable, but that makes it even better. Who do you think? Who would you rank out of those 5 actors, who would probably make it in there as well, alongside Catherine Manassa?
I agree with you. I mean, I think Dearden does amazing work, and I think she has some really great moments in season 2. I thought she had more in season 1. Um, I actually think if I was choosing, I think Sepideh Moafi as Al Hashimi, because that was a character when she first comes in. I expected her to be the heavy. And of course, one of the themes of the pit this year was that Robbie was really the bad guy. Um, and
Yeah,
and to get to that finale was a knockout for Al Hashimi, for
yeah,
Sepideh Moafi, because she had the big confrontation with Robbie about her condition, and then that great scene in the car, which I thought was so beautifully done with no dialogue whatsoever. And it's a really hard thing to come on as a new character on a hit show and start off as I mean, the audience is already kind of rooting against you when you come into that situation. And for her to really become kind of she was really kind of the moral center
yeah.
of the season that you at some point, I don't even remember when it happened, but at some point I started rooting for her and not for Robbie. So she would
Yes.
be like my number 2. And then very close behind them would be kind of a tie because I literally just can't decide between Shabana Aziz and Issa Briones.
Hmm.
Because Javadi is carrying such a weight with this terrible mother
Awful.
who
Oh, her mother is
the
awful.
is just the worst. And she's carrying all this weight of being younger than everybody else. And so she's looking for a place to be. And she takes it from Robbie quite a bit towards the end with the whole TikTok thing with the videos. And then she kind of stands up for herself. And Isa Briones does that really hard thing of being the most unlikable character on the show, and yet you see where she's coming from. There's vulnerability behind that, and I'm not just talking about because we learn very subtly. I think the show is doing a brilliant job with this of giving Santos layers underneath all the bravado and the razor sharp edges and the fuckleberry of it all. And when she says that, I just am so
I
happy.
love it.
With the cutting, I thought they did that really good. And Issa Briones makes it so that we don't like Santos, but you feel for her because you realize there is a lot of damage that needs to be unpacked. And it also doesn't help that she is a magnificent Broadway performer with a voice of absolute pure gold. I love the scene where she's singing to Baby Jane Doe in Tagalog. Her father, of
Yeah.
course, is the magnificent John Briones, who has been on Broadway and has done Ryan Murphy shows and blah blah blah. He's a magnificent actor. So it's really those four that I would be on the lookout for. And with this expanded field and the fact that there's not a lot of competition, I could easily see a world if the White Lotus can put 4 people in a category. The Pit definitely can. And one of the things that I think helps that is the fact that one of the big headlines this week was that The Pit hit #1 on the streaming charts, in the streaming ratings, for the first time. So this is a show that still hasn't hit its zenith yet.
Yeah.
And that is only going to help it.
That's right. I also want to shout out 2 other actors who probably won't be nominated because of the competition, but they're so good, and that would be oh my God, now I'm just blanking. But the Kristen Villanueva, who plays Princess, and Ameline Abelara, who plays Perla. I love those two. I love their chemistry. I love it how they bring in the Tagalog and the Filipino vibe, because that is so spot on for an ED department, or for an emergency department. There's also Becca Blackwell, who is a trans actor, non-binary. I don't know where they're going to submit. So there's also them. There's a lot going on in the pit. Like, this is a cast that I haven't seen a cast this strong in a very long time. So yeah. Anyway, I feel like we've probably exhausted what we can say about the pit, but let's all be very clear. This category and the one that we'll talk about next week, drama supporting actor, this is all about. It's going to be all about the pit. So that being said, let's move on and
Also,
see.
especially considering that Sean Hattasey just threw a wrench into everything
Yeah,
by moving to supporting actor. We'll talk more about that next week instead of guest. But what I do hope from that, and I'm going to say this probably on every episode between now and nomination time, that if that helps get Jeff Kober a nomination for guest actor playing Duke, that would make me so happy because I thought he was just spectacular.
it worries me that Sean Hattasey, who won the Emmy from Guest, is now going to find it much harder to be nominated. He's excellent, but we will talk about this next week. But the supporting actors, oh my god, on the pit, that's another headache. So anyway, we'll park that. So let's talk about non-pit actors now. I think there are.
Is there such a thing?
Is there such a thing? Yes. The answer, Charlie, is yes. I'm going to be going to you first, but I want to name three actors from three very prestige Emmy-friendly shows. One, Carolina Widra from Pluribus. Two, Alison Janney, as you mentioned, from The Diplomat, who plays President Penn. And also Julianne Nicholson, Emmy magnet Julianne Nicholson from Paradise. They are the three main, in my opinion, contenders who are really going to make it difficult for pit actors to win if there's going to be vote splitting and voters want to vote someplace else. Charlie, what are your thoughts on those three?
I think I have all of them in there. I have I don't have Allison Janney in there, and it seems weird, but it does. But remember, she wasn't able to make it in last year, and that was such an earthquake. You know that Allison Janney. We're so used to her getting up. It was news because she wasn't nominated, and
Yeah.
makes me a little apprehensive. Like maybe she wasn't like, is this like, could this be like a Tom Pelphrey situation where he didn't get in that one year, but then subsequent submissions he did get in? Um, I really don't know. I think there are a couple X factors to consider here. One of them is you also have another show that we keep forgetting always is it gets a good amount of Emmy nominations every year is The Morning Show.
True.
It's been a very, it's been rocky in terms of which ones get in, but it usually will get a good amount of nominations. And so you think Nicole Bahari is going to be a factor in there. I remember her in that little indie movie Miss Juneteenth from a couple of years ago. She was so fucking good in that. Um, uh, and then you also
Karen
have like
Pittman.
Christine Baranski for The Gilded Age,
Hmm.
which while it hasn't been really winning, it's been getting reliably nominated in fields. Um, and then I think I also have randomly Amelia Jones in there for Task. But that could end up being just that could end up just flopping with Emmy voters. It's really a coin flip to me at this point. Um, that being said, I really think those are, and yeah, you got Julian Nicholson and uh, Carolyn, what's her name?
Widra. Yeah.
Carolina
Widra. Yeah.
Widra, who really was a breakout on Pluribus
Yeah.
this year. Um, and I think if anyone could give any of the pit people a run for their money, I think it would be her because I feel like very similar to Rhea Seehorn, whenever she's there, it's such a one-on-one thing with them, and she really gets her chances to shine because it's just her and Rhea Seehorn in those scenes. So yeah, that's who I'd be keeping my eye out for.
Yeah, Tony, I know you guys probably still have to catch up with Paradise, but honestly, I feel like Julianne Nicholson is going to be a real threat here. And Carolina Widra, as Charlie just mentioned, is phenomenal in Pluribus, particularly when it's just her and Ray Seahorn. And of course, Alison Janney is just the Alison Janney of it all. I know she missed out last year, but she really is an Emmy magnet. And this past season, season three of The Diplomat, when her character becomes president, Wow, she is stunning in this season. So, Tony, what are your thoughts on those three non-pit contenders?
I agree on all of those, and I think the fact that Kerry Russell won SAG puts gives the diplomat a boost. So yeah, I think that actually helps Allison Janney. The one that I am on the lookout for, and I realize that this might be a weird one, but what the hell? What else am I here for? Is if it submits as a drama series, is Jamie Lee Curtis in Scarpetta.
Thank you for raising this. Yes.
Because I just watched it a few
Oh,
days
me too.
ago.
Me too.
That show is so bonkers crazy, and I love it. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying I love it.
I love it too.
And Jamie Lee Curtis chews every bit of scenery, and there are like scenes between her and Nicole Kidman. It's like Euphoria level dysfunction.
Yeah.
And never sleep on Jamie Lee Curtis being bonkers fucking crazy, and doing everything but chewing the camera lens, which is what she's doing in this show. It made me so happy.
Oh man.
I think she, if I do think it's going to be probably the ones that we've talked about, but don't sleep on Jamie Lee Curtis, because that's the kind of I could see Prime putting a lot of energy behind that, and nobody campaigns better than Jamie Lee Curtis.
I'm so glad you raised it because I was going to say it for what we're watching, but Scarpetta is insane. It's an insane show in a good way. I find it very entertaining. It's very pacey. I love Nicole Kidman. It's got a great cast. But Jamie Lee Curtis, she's playing a similar character to her Emmy-winning role in The Bear. Similar. She's completely insane. She throws out some Italian words, which really gets me. I love that. And she's just ridiculous, but in a good way. Like she's playing a ridiculous
Yeah.
character, but fine. That's okay. I know a lot of people like her and they're all completely nuts. And I was on IMDb the other day just doing a bit of research about Scarpetta, and I saw a lot of comments really trashing her in this role, saying she's miscast, saying that she's unbelievable, saying she's terrible. Those people need to get a life. She is so good in Scarpetta. I am hoping and praying. I don't pray, but let's just pretend that she will be nominated for this role. She's fantastic. So yeah, thank you for calling her out. So I was going to say, guys, I was just going to mention a few other names slash shows, and I just want to hear from you guys, yes or no. And then if you want to pipe in with some comments, please do. But what about, for example, Stranger Things? Do you think that that is even a thing anymore for Winona Ryder and Millie Bobby Brown? I would
I don't
say
think
no.
so. I don't
I
think
don't
so.
think so.
I think the time has passed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's too far out of mind. Even though Winona Ryder somewhat controversially got her character got the job of beheading the big bad, which was you mess with the wrong fucking family. It's one of the few times that they ever said fuck on that show, that they ever had
Yeah.
Joyce swear on that show. But I would also maybe say that we shouldn't sleep on some folks like say Ann Dowd in the Testaments.
Yes.
That's always a possibility. I could see a world where if industry ever makes a inroads with the Emmys, Kiernan Shipka could really get in there. There's a world
Yeah.
where Sydney Sweeney could get nominated. Who knows?
Yeah. Sydney
Um,
Sweeney from Euphoria,
as
along with
damn near
Hunter Schafer.
unwatchable as Euphoria is this season. Um,
It's depressing. And I love Euphoria, but yeah, it's depressing. Also from Stranger Things, Sadie Sink and Maya Hawke, Martha Plimpton in Task. I'm just Audrey McDonald in The Gilded Age. Yeah, the morning show had heaps of actors, as Charlie mentioned, like Karen Pittman and Marianne Cotillard, and um, I'm blanking, but there's a lot of those, and there's also a new show coming out soon called The Burrows, on Netflix, and it's a sci-fi kind of. It's I haven't seen it yet, but I've got the screeners. I'm going to try to watch it this weekend. That's got Alfre Woodard, and when I say Alfre Woodard, I think about Charlie because I know how much you love her, particularly in Clemency. So I'm looking forward to when you see the Burrows. I want to know what you think because once people start seeing that show, because I know I've been in chats with Netflix about this actually, just behind the scenes. Just I was asking them questions about what they're going to do on this show, and they really want to push it quite hard because they can see that it's actually going to be really good. Can you imagine? It'd be good to see Alfre Woodard as a nominee. So
And Emmy, and speaking of Emmy royalty, Alfre Woodard. I mean, she has four.
yeah,
Yeah.
like so she's another magnet. They love her. Um, there's a show that I really love that we've talked about in the past, but it's kind of died off a bit in terms of its buzz. But Alien Earth, I hope it gets something at the Emmys, and if it does in any of these categories, Essie Davis could be. And now we're wish casting, of course, but I really think she's fantastic in this. And I think it could even get some traction in the guest actress category as well. And I'm just looking down the list. Like there's so many amazing people that like Demi Moore, Oscar nominee Demi Moore in Landman, great show, great performance. That's possible. And Ali Ahn from the Diplomat, she's fantastic. And then also my final one, and then I'll shut up and I'll go to you, Charlie, if you've got any more. Would probably be um, oh my God, Archie Panjabi in Hijack. So like there are so many to choose from. There's literally in Gold Derby's list in front of me right now. There are 75 in the running, so to speak. But yeah, I love the drama supporting categories. I love the pit. Don't get me wrong, but I hope that they can look further and we can see some diversity. What do you think, Charles?
I mean, I second everything you just said. I would love to. I think this is going to be a very interesting category to see how this shakes out.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So we've talked about Scarpetta into Tony and I and what we're watching. I also want to shout out something else that I just finished the other day that I am obsessed with, and that is Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen. Um, Starring Emmy nominee Camilla Morrone, and it is superb. It is like it's got the same vibe as The Haunting of Hill House, A Haunting of Bly Manor. So it's in that genre, but I think it's just so artistically done, visually, sonically. The writing is really sharp. It's really I wasn't expecting some of the twists and turns. The ending is very satisfying. The score is incredible. Haley Z, I remember a little speak American. Haley Z Boston, the showrunner and creator, she's just done an incredible job on this. And this is also produced by the Duffer Brothers. Yeah, I highly recommend it. Please go and seek it out if you like horror and thrillers, and especially those really great limited series on Netflix. This is the show for you. Okay, and Camilla Morrone, she's definitely a contender in the limited series actress race, hopefully. Okay, that's what I've been. I also saw Devil Wears Prada 2 last night, and with the fam, and we loved it. We walked out of there really happy, smiling. We thought that was fun. It's not going to kill cancer. Everyone chill. You don't have to shit on it just because it's not the greatest movie of all time. It's got the same vibe as the first one. Meryl Streep is the greatest actress of all time. For all time. Okay, she's that good. Well, the whole cast: Emily Blunt, Anne Hathaway, even Patrick Brammall plays. He's a supporting a role as an Aussie, which I really love. He's got a great joke about Australia. Just really love that. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Tony, what are you watching?
I just got the screeners for Spider Noir, and I don't know how I got them. Thank you,
What is
Amazon.
that? What is it?
But so if you saw Into the Spider Verse, one of the alternate Spider Mans is a film noir 1930 Spider Man voiced by Nicolas Cage. Well, Nicolas Cage is playing that role in a live action series. And it's an 8-episode live action series with Brendan Gleeson as the main villain. And I am
What?
very, very excited to watch this. Nicolas Cage, playing a 1930s trench coat wearing Spider-Man versus Brendan Gleeson. Yes, please. All
Sign
of
me up.
this. I need to see all of this. So that's what I'm going to be watching this weekend. Um, I did just finish the newest season of Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, which had a very uneven season, but ended very strongly. And I really hope it gets renewed for a third season. And I hope they kind of go back to the basics of what made season one so great, because the finale almost made up for the unevenness of how of the season going to that. And there was a very wonderful, magnificent cameo at the very end of the season that made me very happy. Um, um, I'm trying to think if there's something else. Oh, and I'm going to be a broken record, and I'm still going to say Will Trent still continues, for my money, to be one of the best network uh, procedurals, and it took a very dark turn in recent weeks, and Ramon Rodriguez, man. I wish that guy would get the traction he deserves, because what he is doing on a week to week basis as his character basically gets pushed into the existential abyss is so compelling and so just absolutely dynamite. And plus the fact that he's now been elevated to an executive producer on the show, and he's directing multiple episodes of season, and still that he's giving the performance that he's giving is really just something special to watch. And I really, really wish he would get the traction that he deserves. But if he doesn't, you know what? He's still turning in great work on a great show. So I'm good with that.
Very exciting. Charlie, what are you watching at the moment?
I actually, so I am almost all caught up on the current season of Hacks, which, like I said a couple weeks ago, I said there was no they haven't disappointed me yet, so there was no reason to expect that they wouldn't this year. And God damn it, they are just as good this year. This season is just as great. Um,
Awesome.
I love that. It's a very worthy successor to Broad City, where the three creators of the show wrote for prior, and I think the season is just so wonderful, especially in the premiere. Deborah has wants to cement her legacy by going EGOT. So she has a plan to win, and she has to win an Oscar and a Grammy within a year. So like she tells Paul W. Downs, just find me something to win me an Oscar. Hannah Einbinder's character has matured a lot in this season. She has a great storyline with a sex worker. And episode two has Ann Dowd in it in a role that you will probably not recognize her in at an autograph convention. She has one scene. She's wonderful. I think it's also just highlighted by the fact that it's Ann fucking Dowd. She's just, and to see her doing something that's meant to be funny is a refreshing thing. It's like she can do no wrong. I will
Yeah.
also say I got back last weekend. I was up in New York, and I saw two Broadway shows while I was up there. I saw Titanic, which is this gloriously campy uh, uh, retelling of the movie Titanic by Celine Dion.
Yeah.
It's absolutely bonkers, but it's so much fun. And let me tell you something: Jim Parsons in this show playing Rose's mother.
Oh my God.
This is he's had everyone is having so much fun in the show, but he is really having the time of his life in this production. It is, campy up to 11, so it was fantastic. But the other show I saw was the new revival of Rocky Horror at Studio 54,
Oh yeah. How was it?
and that was magnificent. That was so good. It is its own thing. It is complete with the way it's designed, the way the show goes. It is its own thing, very detached from the movie. Luke Evans as Frankenfurter is otherworldly. He is so goddamn good in this. And I think if he gets nominated for a Tony, he could be a serious threat to win.
Yeah.
I also want to shout out. I mean, the whole cast was great. It's Juliette Lewis, Stephanie Shu, Michaela J. Rodriguez. Her vocals as Columbia were incredible. I could
Really?
not believe how
Oh,
good
that's so great to hear.
What a cast.
how high her voice got. It was fantastic. But my standout of the female cast members supporting was Rachel Dratch as the criminologist, the narrator. She is so fun in this, and it just plays right to her strengths. She's already a Tony Award nominee for that play POTUS, which was a great nomination on her end. Um, and on the actors' side, I loved Harvey Guillen as Eddie slash Dr. Scott. He was fantastic. He was so good. Brought all the energy that you would want with those two characters. I'm really excited to see how much of a dent that this show can make at the Tony Awards. I'm very excited for that.
Well,
What a dream.
we'll find out very soon because nominations come out on Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yep.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is that it's interesting that you say that about Luke Evans because up until the time that Rocky Horror opened, people thought that this was going to be kind of a walk in the park for Joshua Henry, who stars as Cole House Walker in the new revival of Ragtime.
Mm-hmm.
And so it'll be really interesting to see these two very different performances
Yeah.
come at each other. I'm very excited.
One of the standout parts for Luke Evans, at least in the performance that I saw on last Friday night, was so of course they make it very clear when you walk in that this is not like a midnight showing. You're not supposed to be yelling, although at the first time they say Brad Majors and Janet Weiss, they do allow, and so there is a
Mhm.
bit of audience participation, but most of the audience caught on. However, there was one person, there was one person, and it makes me think that at every performance, there's always one person who kept on going with it. And when it came time for the big closing number for Luke Evans, I'm going home. Uh, this one right before this person in the audience, you could hear her say something, and Luke Evans just went, "Shut up!"
Really? Oh, yes.
Yes. Yes. And we all applauded him for it.
She would have felt like
We all
shit.
gave him a huge round of applause for that.
I
So
love that.
kudos to him for that. I think they worked it in there. So they're like, okay, if someone at this point, yeah, go ahead and break and just tell them to shut the
Tell him
fuck
to shut
up.
the fuck up. He should win the Tony just for that, for fuck's sake.
Yes, he absolutely should.
Okay, there's a little bit more of awards news that I wanted to quickly talk about before we move on to our top fives, and that is the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences
Oh,
has
good.
just
Thank you.
announced, yeah, has just announced that they've made some very, very cool changes. When I first picked up my phone and was reading, I thought, oh, are they announcing the stunt category? No, no, not that good, but still good. So the two main takeaways are an actor can now be nominated in the same category for two different performances. That's always been a problem. It's always resulted in category fraud, well, accusations of category fraud and being in the wrong category and sometimes missing out because they don't know where to nominate you because you've got two or three performances in the running. Like, for example, this year, Anne Hathaway has like 5 films coming out. Like, she's going to have some trouble. So you can now be nominated in both categories. So, for example, Kate Winslet could have been nominated for The Reader and for Revolutionary Road in the same category. That's one thing.
One
And the
that
other thing,
one that Tony and me brought up a couple months ago, because this was an episode that you weren't on, Rob.
oh, yeah.
We were discussing our favorite underrated comedies, and we brought up one of my favorite examples of this, Michael Douglas in 2000, when he had both Traffic and Wonder Boys. And
Yes.
you kind of think, and you kind of wonder if like, did he split his own vote? Did he, what happened there? And yeah.
Yeah, good point. So there's that, but also the one that I'm actually even more excited about is in the international feature category. So it's always been that every country has to submit a film, and it's the country that wins the award, not the director, like technically or producer, technically speaking. And and there's always been so much controversy because if you're a director who is not in the club in your home country, you generally are not going to get chosen. And sometimes certain countries they pick the wrong film. It happens in France all the time. And so now, if the film has met a certain threshold in the festival circuit, they can also self-submit. So you may have two films from France competing, three even, given how strong that film industry is, and perhaps maybe similarly, there might be the same case for perhaps maybe South Korea or Japan, Italy,
Italy.
Germany, the usual suspects. Yeah, so that's really
But
exciting.
regardless, but regardless of how many you have, all of them will be distributed by Neon.
Correct. And
Yes.
we like it that way because we all get the neon box and we all get to love their films. So, Tony, what are your thoughts on these two main rule changes? I think they're fantastic.
I think it's great. The only thing that I'm not sure of, and I was trying to do some research, but I was working, educating
Living.
young minds, doing that sort of thing. How terrifying for everybody.
Oh,
That it's still unclear to me now. It looks like what they said was that the director's name will be put on the statue.
That's
What's
actually been
not clear to
policy, though.
me,
That's
but what's
been
not clear
policy
to
for the past
me,
couple of years.
right? But what's not clear to me is, it does the director then get to keep the Oscar?
yeah. Is it his or
And
her
that's still
win?
unclear to me based on what I was reading. Now, somebody please write to us, awards7@gmail.com. We have a letter that we'll read before the top five. But I'm curious about that. And if the director is accepting the award and blah, 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 will that director then be considered an Oscar-winning director? So that's the only question I have, but I love the changes and I love the, you know, the opportunity for multiple. It's always been interesting to me because it's not a new thing in many categories,
Yeah.
every category except acting,
Yeah.
that there can be the same person can be nominated multiple times. I mean, hello, Steven Soderbergh. Um, so it's not a new thing. I don't know why it took so long to get to the acting thing.
Yeah. Charlie, what about you?
Yeah, I kind of second everything that Tony just said. I'm a bit more on the fence about this with the multiple with the acting rule change. Um, I'm going to be very interested to see how this happens because it's still very possible that they could split their own votes, but now that they're able to nominate that same actor in the both, I think that kind of clears it up. But it still makes it very interesting, and I'm very curious with what Tony brought up about the international feature category because that's always been a thorn in my side. That the fact that that the director doesn't get to keep it. So like technically Pedro Almodovar wasn't an Oscar winner until 2002 when he won his original screenplay Oscar for Talk to Her. So
Yeah.
that's always been something that's always been a thorn in my side when it comes to personal stuff about the Academy. Um, uh, and as long as they keep on saying "fuck you" to AI, I'm very happy.
Of course. Yeah, there was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stuff about AI, which is great. Like the reason why we bring this up about the directors of international features is when we're doing our research, we're writing our articles. I'm generally like, Oscar-winning director Thomas Vinterberg, but technically he's really not. But
Mhm.
but I say he is. I just don't
Uh,
give a shit.
Well, this actually happened. This technicality got brought up at Middleburg when I think it was 2021, the movie The Hand of God, the Paolo Sorrentino movie. He was introduced. He was there at the festival, and he was introduced right before the screening as by the festival director as an Oscar winner, and he made sure to clarify when he got up there. Yeah, I don't have that Oscar for The Great Beauty. It's
It's
not mine.
insane. it just goes to the Italian film, whatever Academy or whatever it's
The
called.
film organization that submits.
That's ridiculous. That needs to
I
stop.
suppose that they get to decide whether to do so. There is a chance that the director could still have it, but the organization decides what's to do with it.
Yeah,
Like I know that I'm pretty sure that the Oscar that Canada won for the Barbarian Invasions is on display at the headquarters of the organization that submits for the
yeah.
Oscars every year.
I'm more. I don't really care who has the Oscar. To me, it's more just like if you win, if you directed a film that won, like for example, I'm blanking, but whatever. If you win, you get to say you're an Oscar winner because you directed the film. Like, oh, that's crazy. So like, I'm just doing it anyway. I don't care. That's just what we. That's what I've got. Susanna Bier, for example, she's an Oscar winner as far as I'm concerned. I don't care what the actual rules say. So, okay, we have a letter. I'm really interested, Tony. Please regale us with this correspondence.
I'm very excited about this letter. This is from Matthew. Hello, Matthew. He is a friend of our previous guest, Jack Mahanes, and he says, "I was wondering if you guys ever thought about doing a top five favorite films from certain filmmakers. I can't recall if you guys ever did a few of those on your past episodes, but I'd be curious where you land with certain filmmakers. Maybe do one on Sidney Lumet or Robert Altman. As they're filmmakers, I'm dying to explore more of their films myself and wanted to know what you guys think were your favorite ones." You know what? That is a brilliant idea.
I love it.
It's a
Because
great idea.
we are old film nerds, and
Mhm.
I can tell you right now that when it comes to the two that you mentioned, Sidney Lumet and Robert Altman, that would be, well, in Altman's case, it would be really easy for me. Sidney Lumet, actually, no, my number one would be easy, but boiling it down to five would be tricky. But yeah, I love that idea, and we would love, Matthew, you've given us two very good ideas, and everybody else, please write us at awards7@gmail.com. What are some top fives you would like us to do? We are always looking for ideas, and
Aren't we though?
the weirder, the better. And who knows? Maybe if you even send us some of your top fives, we might read them.
I think that's a great idea. We will try. We will make a commitment to read your top five. If you suggest it and we go with it, we will do that. And like for example, when the Odyssey is out soon, I think we should do top five Nolan. Because I mean, just for me, he's just one of the greats. When Dune 3
And
comes out, we
Decision
could
Day,
do
we should do a top five Spielberg.
top five Spielberg, and we could do top five Villeneuve.
Absolutely.
And so, like, I think that would be fantastic.
I wonder
Um,
how many of us will have 1941 on there.
yeah. Hmm.
Honestly, that comment funnier than all of 1941.
Pretty much.
True.
Okay, we're moving on to our top five for this week, though, and that is top five best drama supporting actress Emmy winners of all time. And I have two quick comments. Firstly, there will probably be some overlap. There aren't 100 to choose from, and also because there's so many repeat winners, we're going to try to be specific. And then I thought we could also, if you wanted to, in your honorable mentions, you could mention a couple of actresses who didn't win, but you were just so impressed with their nomination, and maybe they were close to winning. But the Emmys do love to repeat themselves. They love reruns, and so that's why there's been some amazing performances that haven't won because there was a steamroller who just kept winning the same award over and over again. Okay, so Charlie, you're going first. Number five.
My number five. So I kept these to ones that I was alive for. And number five is one that's kind of considered an upset, but when you look at the tapes, she really deserved it, and that's Blythe Danner in 2005, winning for Huff. She was wonderful as the prickly mother of Hank Azaria's character. But the episodes that she submitted, I remember there's one where she's helping a friend of hers die with dignity, and it was just like I remember watching. I watched it after the Emmys because when that win happened, I was completely just caught off guard. That completely caught me off guard. But when I saw the episodes that she submitted, I went, Oh, that's why she won. And damn it, she was right to win that one. She was that was a very that's also my recognition of that was a very short-lived show that I thought had real potential. Um, and I still have never actually seen the second season of that show because they never released it on DVD, at least as far as I know. So that was a show that I felt that kind of got the rough end of it. But I really loved Blythe Danner's win.
With Blythe Danner, it was always really impressive to me that she was being nominated. It happens sometimes in supporting categories when the Academy tends to go for an actor that they really like. So, like, it happened a little bit with Burn Notice. Oh my God, I completely forgot
Sharon
her name.
Glass, yeah.
Sharon
Yeah,
Glass.
Sharon Glass, who is just a favorite no matter what show she's in. And Huff wasn't really a big contender elsewhere. Showtime was never really a huge Emmys contender until Homeland really started to hit home, part of the fun. And so, yeah, Black Donna winning, very cool. She won twice, I think,
She
as
won twice.
well,
Yeah, she won the
which
following
is
year as well.
really,
And
really impressive.
that one irks me a bit more because like she beat Jean Smart for 24, Chandra
Yeah,
Wilson for Grey's Anatomy. So that one. And of course I haven't seen the second season, so I don't know the
you
episode.
don't
I
know if she was
haven't
any
seen the
good. Exactly,
episodes.
exactly. Tony, what's your number five?
So one thing about all of mine is that I actually all of mine go back to the tape system, and so all of mine are pre 2015. My number five is Kim Delaney for NYPD Blue. And NYPD Blue is a show that I absolutely adore. It is one of the formative shows of my life. A show that was on literally from the time I was 15 to the time I was 27. And
Wow.
that I watched every single episode. And there is a YouTube account that has been going for a few years now that just has, storylines from NYPD Blue posted. And the episode that Kim Delaney won for was, her character was a recovering alcoholic who had also experienced sexual assault. And when there's a absolutely just breathtaking scene where she recounts her assault to Jimmy Smits. Their characters were married, and it's so beautiful and so layered, and I just think it's fantastic. Kim Delaney has had a lot of issues in terms of alcohol problems, and her career has never reached the heights
It's
that
sad.
it had. It's really unfortunate, but I'll actually send you guys a clip in our group chat. It's such a superb performance.
Yeah, that's a good one. So my number five is Anne Dowd in The Handmaid's Tale in 2017, and that you'll recall was the year that Stephen Colbert hosted, and he came out on stage with all a bunch of handmaids dancing. It was just after Trump won the presidency the first time, and so people were a bit shell shocked and also a bit worried about some of the rhetoric that was coming out of his administration and his campaign. And so Handmaid's Tale ended up winning Best Drama Series, but before it did, a real clue that it was going to hit home with voters was her winning. Such an amazing performance as Aunt Lydia. And I remember her getting up on stage and thanking Hulu and how much everyone loves Hulu so much.
They're
She's just
wonderful
such a
people at Hulu.
wonderful people at Hulu.
Hulu.
She's adorable. I've been very grateful to have a few conversations with her over the years for Gold Derby, and find her to be such a compelling actor as well, particularly in The Leftovers. In that one guest acting performance that got netted her a nomination for the only ever nomination The Leftovers ever got. But anyway, that's my number five. And in The Handmaid's Tale season one, her episode was Offered, the pilot, stunning. Okay, number four, Charlie.
Well, you kind of stole my thunder there. My number four is Ann Dowd for The Handmaid's
Yes,
Tale,
there's an overlap.
and I get to and this I get to tell my favorites one of my favorite entertainment stories here involving Ann Dowd. So the first year, so that year I actually flew out to Los Angeles. I actually got to go to the Emmys that year, but before the Emmys, me and Marcus Dixon from Gold Derby, we got to work the red carpet at the nominees, at the acting nominees reception that they were having on, I think, the Friday beforehand. So
Yeah.
we did like little 3-minute red carpet interviews with like Jonathan Banks and Michael Kelly. But we got to Ann Dowd, and we had a lot. And so me and Marcus alternated doing the interviews. And when it got to end out, I got to do the interview with her, and we had fun. And afterwards, I will never forget. She leaned into us and she said, "So, what are my chances on Sunday?" And I said to her, "Listen, your category is the most wide open of the night. And you have to remember, this was the first year of not just Handmaid's Tale. You had Stranger Things, so you had Millie Bobby Brown nominated. You had This Is Us, Chrissy Metz was nominated. You had the first year of Westworld, so you had Tandy Newton in there. This category was ridiculously stacked that year. Any one of those actresses going into that night had a legitimate shot at winning. And I said to her, if I were you, I'd be prepared because this category is the most wide open of the evening. And sure enough, she did not heed my advice. I got to tell her this a couple of years ago when I did an interview with her for Mass, and it's really funny when it's like it's kind of, you kind of see the gears turning in her head when she wins. And the best is Samira Wiley, who was also nominated, who was sitting across for the aisle from her, said, "That's you, get up there."
Oh man, I just love that show. I really miss it, and I'm still yet to
So
get into the Testaments.
the lesson is always listen to me.
Pretty much, always listen to
Yes.
Charlie, I suppose.
And Dowd,
Okay,
heed this.
heed your call, Tony. Number four.
My number four is also someone I've interviewed more than once, and that is the great Holland Taylor for The Practice. Now, Holland Taylor was one of three actors in that category from The Practice, the other being Lara Flynn Boyle, who famously brought her then boyfriend Jack Nicholson to the Emmys. And Cameron Manheim, who had won the year before. But Holland Taylor won, and this is where the tape system is just so delicious because she had a recurring role on The Practice as Judge Roberta Kittleson, who was a woman of a certain age who was being sued for sexual harassment by her much younger. I think it was a clerk who was played by Ken Marino. Nod
Love
to the
Ken
other
Marino.
two. And the scene that won it for her was a deposition scene where she's confronted by Ken Marino and she just says to him in the most nonchalant way, "We both know I can give you an erection from across the room." And literally he becomes very uncomfortable and everybody else in the scene, Dylan McDermott and everybody else, is slowly starting to look over at his pants, and she says, "Stand up right now." And on top of that, not only did she win for that, and it's a magnificent performance, she proceeded to give one of the funniest acceptance speeches I have ever heard when she just kind of stood there for what seemed like forever and just went, "Overnight." And
Yeah, that's
she
right.
then says, "I'm so glad I wrote something." And then she says, "I'm so sorry I can't see it." And, and if you've ever spent 5 minutes with Holland Taylor, you know that that is her personality. She is so funny and she is such an accomplished actress of stage and screen. And I love that win. I love that performance because The Practice was a show I watched religiously while it was on.
Same, same.
Especially in 1998, everybody was watching The Practice.
Yeah,
Everybody was watching The Practice.
I feel like The Practice was like this year's The Pit, and it had so many amazing actors on it. Even recurring roles were getting nominated and supporting because they weren't able to be eligible in guest, and it just was a killer show. So good. All right, that's a good one. My number four is Archie Panjabi from The Good Wife. in 2010. Her episode was called High, and it's the
Hi.
episode where she smashes the car with the club, and she's wearing the FMBs, the boots, the knee high boots, and the leather. And I just think that character, Kalinda Sharma, is gold. It really solidified Archie Punjabi's career, and in terms of her ability to play these really interesting characters. We're going to be like a broken record on this, but I had the chance to interview her a couple of times for The Good Wife and a few other shows, and she is a delight. And she's just an amazing actress. And of course, this is just a sidebar, but the rumored uh, falling out between her and Juliana Margulies is still Emmy law, Lore, that people are still wondering about. That obviously she and or Juliana will never ever divulge. But I'm hoping one day it'll come out. I want to know who did what, who's in the wrong, who are we going to support, or just
Remember,
what the hell happened there?
it was to the point where when they had the final scene, you could tell that they were not actually in the same room with each other.
Yes. Like,
Ryan
really?
Murphy, get on this now.
Please,
Feud.
I need
Juliana and Archie.
I was telling you, I know it will probably get very bad.
I'd watch it.
I would watch it. I would watch that
watch it too.
religiously. In fact, I think a lot of people would. Yes, that's my number 4. All right, Charles.
And if they could, they should have Archie Punjabi play herself.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. All right, what's your number 3?
And then have Juliana Margulies played by Jessica Lange.
Okay. Or Sarah Paulson.
Not much to say about my number 3. My number 3 is reigning champ Catherine Lanasa. I really just love, as I said, like because last year her character was prominent, but she was a lot more in the background, keeping everything going, and which is the trademark of a great charge nurse, as I learned from my mom. And for my mom to be into a medical show, a medical drama specifically, because my mom was a nurse for decades. It takes a lot. She usually gravitates more towards the comedies because she finds them to be more realistic, actually. But the linchpin for the pit for her and it ended up being for me and for I know for you, Tony, and for so many people who love this show was Catherine Lanasa. Her I love, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, I love roles where someone is calm, collected, always in control of everything around them. And Charge Nurse Dana is the epitome of that. I was so happy for her win this past year, and the fact that she has become this, after decades of acting, not to mention being married to Dennis Hopper for several years. She is finally she is becoming this icon of this show, and and the Emmys are a crucial part of that, and I absolutely adore it.
The Emmys do this all the time, don't they? They put shows on the map. They save them from cancellation. They get actors. They help actors break through. That's why, to me, the Emmys are number 1. I love the Emmys. I don't care what people say. Tony, what's your number 3?
My number 3, to paraphrase Charlie, Margot Martindale. Longtime Gold Derby watchers will know that reference. But no, it's Margot Martindale for Justified. Justified was a show that, I liked on and off, but that season with Margot Martindale as Mags Bennett was such an extraordinary season of television. Yeah. Having her as this villain who is, trashy as all hell and yet diabolical, and, the mother from hell, and yet you just absolutely could not wait for this woman to be on the screen. And that particular episode, Brother's Keeper, is just one stellar moment after another for her every time she's on screen. I mean, it was one of those things where, like, as soon as she was nominated, I knew she was winning. Because just nobody could come close to her. And that was also, by the way, the first season of Game of Thrones. So,
I don't think any
and
of
the
the
fact
actresses
that,
from Game of Thrones were nominated that year.
Yeah, you're right. They weren't.
yeah, you're right.
Very
She was.
surprising.
Who was her
Yeah, Peter
competition?
Dinklage was the only one who got nominated.
She had Christine
That's
Baranski.
right.
She had Christine Baranski, Michelle Forbes, Christina Hendricks, Kelly MacDonald, and Archie Punjabi. That's who she was able to beat.
That was the first year of Boardwalk Empire. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, Boardwalk Empire. So anyway, yeah, Margot Martindale. Bravo.
Talk about putting an actor on the map, because Margot Martindale was known to many of us as a character actress, journeywoman actor. Bullshit. That's just nonsense. This made her a star.
Insert BoJack Horseman reference here.
Correct.
She's literally character actress Margot Martindale on the show.
Exactly. And I remember back in the day, people were they were comparing her to Ann Dowd, and it was just like, that's so disrespectful. Like, she is a star. And then she was able to then parlay that into her role on The Americans. We all know she won, I think, the second Emmy for a 3-second performance. That was the Emmy where Charlie broke half of his apartment. And so, yeah, that was a good one. I love Margot Martindale. And not only that, she's just a real fucking nice person, real legend, lovely to talk to, cool person. All right. My number 3 is the most recent one, and that is Jennifer Coolidge in The White Lotus, her first win for season 1. The reason why I loved it. Yeah, I think that was a season 2 reference, but it doesn't matter.
That was season 2. Well, season 1 she was in limited series.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry, my bad. So let's go with season 2. These guys are trying to murder me. She won for season 1, wonderful performance. Season 2, she won again the next year, and the reason why I love that is because, like, she's just such a lovable person, the character. She's a favorite of many people. She's Stifler's mom, and she's been around for a very long time. And White Lotus, again, put her on the map properly and gave her the wins that she never really got the recognition she deserved. And she's also so funny. Whenever she gives a acceptance speech or she's presenting, I'm all ears. I'm like, what are you going to do today? And she never disappoints. So I really, really am happy. But, thank you for reminding me that. I was thinking of the number 1, but I actually had written down season 2 because season 1 was not in drama. Okay, that's my number 3. Let's move on to number 2. We're getting closer. I'm feeling like we're going to get some real serious overlap at the pointy end. I'm excited. Number 2, Charles.
My number 2 is Anna Gunn for Breaking Bad. She was her care, and I'm specifically actually going to cite her first win in 2013 when she submitted 51.
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember when that episode aired. I didn't watch it when it was on, but I remember everyone at Gold Derby was saying, holy shit, this episode's amazing. Anna Gunn's going to win an Emmy for this. But it was a year away, so we were wondering, could it sustain it for a year? Sure enough, it did. And thank God she did, because she's so good. She had to deal with so much shit from certain fans of the show, to the point where she actually wrote an op-ed in the New York Times basically saying, what is wrong with you people?
Get alive.
And I was completely on her side about that. She's playing the character the way it's written. And she got, and to me, she got from the get-go. At first, it was a bit rocky, but everything in its first season usually is a bit rocky. But by season 2, she really had found the rhythm of this character and just made it so interesting and fun to watch. And this is another one who, she had been working for years on television, and just to be on this show that had been breaking out the way that it did was something else. But that first win, I loved, because that was really her standing out. Because at the ceremony, remember, the only wins Breaking Bad had that year were that and drama series. That was it. So I think that was a real testament to just how incredible she was on this show. And of course, the following year she had Ozymandias, which is by far one of the greatest episodes of television that's ever aired. And her performance is central to that. But that 2013 win, I always found really special. So that's what I'm going with for number two.
Okay. Tony, numero dos.
My number two is Anna Gunn the next year for Ozymandias.
There you go.
And I completely agree with everything you just said. The reason why I picked Ozymandias um, is just because of, one of the things that I think makes that episode one of the great all-time episodes of television is that it's one of those episodes where if you just look at that scene between Walt and Skyler, when with the knife, both of them are on equal footing. And then I think what brings it over the top for me is that I think a lot of people forgot that Skyler White was a mom. And one of the things I love, I think it was Vince Gilligan who said that it's amazing that we're dealing with a kind of murderous drug dealer in Walter White, and people are hating Skyler more, the woman that he's lying to and stuff like that.
The one who's caught up in the whole thing.
Yeah, the one who's caught up in the whole thing. And I feel like that moment where she swings the knife and cuts him, it was in many ways her kind of, it was Skylar reclaiming her power, but it was also Anna Gunn, I think, you know, cutting down all the bullshit that she had dealt with. And just that kind of that when Walt drives off with the baby, that of her just kind of collapsing with her mouth open with that silent kind of scream that as a parent you totally identify with. And what I love about it is that how hard it was for her to do that. If you go on YouTube, you can actually see the filming of that moment and how she doesn't get there at first. She doesn't reach that level at first, and it's through the direction and through some talking with Vince Gilligan, and she stays in that place and she stays there. And I can only imagine the anguish that you have to live in to give that kind of performance. I just think it's an all timer, and I want Anna Gunn to get that level of role again.
Yes, I know. Where has she been?
Second.
Okay. My numero due is Dre DiMatteo from The Sopranos, 2004. The episode was irregular around the margins, and of course, long-term parking. When her character is
Speaking of one of the great episodes of television ever.
of all time, like the long-term parking just completely blows my socks off. It is that good. Um, every time I think about her character being killed off in that way, where she's crawling in the leaves in the forest and then coughs a bullet, it actually really hurts me because I really felt something for that. Like I really cared about that character, and that performance is so authentic. It could have been so one note. It could have been the typical Joyzy girl, and it wasn't. It was, of course, that, but that is real. I have a lot of cousins who live in upstate New York and New Jersey who talk and look and sound like that. Okay. It's an Italian American thing, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's not a stereotype. Who gives a shit? Let's just all get over it. Adriana Lacerda was a great character. And this was really tough for me because my number one is my number one, and I will never change that. But I wanted to talk about Gillian Anderson playing Margaret Thatcher in The Crown. There's so many great performances in this category over the years. But Dre DiMatteo, like, honestly, wow, so good. Okay, now we get into the pointy end. Charlie, what is your number one?
So, a few honorable mentions. I just want to throw out Dre DiMatteo. Absolutely, that was such a glorious win, and that was one of those great moments in leading up to The Sopranos finally winning drama
Yeah.
series. Um, I do want to shout out two specific nominations, though. One is CCH Pounder for The Shield. I always adored CCH Pounder on that show from the moment I saw her. So I was when she got that nomination. Uh, she is just magnificent, and that's the Glenn Close season that she got nominated for. Um, and she should have gotten more nominations, especially that final season. Oh my God, she's so fucking good in that final season. But the other one I want to shout out is actually Lauren Ambrose for 6 Feet Under. I always really enjoyed her on that show, and I was there are several years where I was really hoping that she would actually pull through and win. I think specifically like 2003, and I would have loved to have seen her nominated for the final season because the while that show was really rocky after season two, it had one of the best finales ever. And also, she was never nominated, but got to shout out Justina Machado, who was fabulous on 6 Feet Under as well. I would have loved to have seen her get nominated. But my number one has already been brought up, and that is Margot Martindale for Justified. My old laptop be damned, but I it's like Tony said, that character was so interesting, and she was one of those actresses who we had seen, and when you saw her, you had seen her in other things, but that performance, I've never seen a standout like that, especially from a character who is written in specifically for that season. Um, she just knocked it out of the park. She was just, I mean, it's so compelling from every moment. It made me have it led to me having an affinity for apple pie moonshine. Um, and she was so great, and her acceptance speech was just the crowning the icing on top, because she gets up there and the first thing she says is some things just take time. And oh God, I just felt so good for her. And you could also tell, like, Timothy Oliphant was almost tearing up, watching her accept, and he was looking just. I was so jealous of her because she got to sit next to him, and he was looking just fine as hell that year. That he kind of looks that way all the time. Um,
Yeah.
but playing Max Bennett was such a great character, and one of those, and just I think one of the all-time great Emmy wins of all time in any category. She's a queen. There's a reason why.
Yeah, good one. All right, Tony, what's your number one?
So my honorable mentions are Juliana Margulies for ER. She was magnificent in that first season, um, and Drea De Matteo. That's obvious. My number one, and I want everybody to bear with me because you might think this is very basic of me, but as the elder statesman, I think of this group, particularly in my tastes. My number one is Ellen Corby as Grandma Walton, Esther Walton on The Waltons. She won 3 times. She won in 1973, 1975, and 1976. Her second win in 1975, she won for both her and for her co-star Will Geer, who played Grandpa, is an absolute tour de force. It's Grandpa Walton's birthday, and he has a heart attack, a massive heart attack. And Grandma Walton on that show was very patrician, very stern, very old school Southern Baptist. She would say "I love you," but never crack a smile. Um, what was so unique about this episode was it was really one of the few times you saw Esther Walton break. And Ellen Corby had been an actress in film and vaudeville and television for years and years and years and years. And she was an old-fashioned actress. And if you talk to people on the Waltons, she was a giant pain in the ass behind the scenes. She was always about the work. They loved her, but she had very clear ideas about what she wanted and how she wanted it done. And woe to the person who stood in her way. There is a great scene in the middle of that episode where she is trying to basically fight off the fear that she's feeling that her husband of 51 years is going to die. And she's telling everybody he's going to be fine, he's going to be fine, he's going to be fine. And she's lashing out at everybody, and she finally breaks. And when she does, it is just devastating. It is an absolutely devastating moment. Um, and ultimately, she is actually the one who tells the doctors to essentially fuck off. Um, she is going to make him better, and she actually like does. Um, and it's this little tiny, teeny tiny woman is a force of nature, and she's totally the opposite of what my grandmother was, because my grandmother was very sweet and lovely and wonderful, and this one was the exact opposite, but I loved her just as much.
Wow. Okay. I love a good deep cut, Tony. That's a really good one. I've got a few honorable mentions, and these some nominees that never won, like Marina Baccarin from Homeland season two. Rose Byrne, she reaped a few nominations for Damages, never was able to win. Same with Lena Olin in Alias. In 1996, the great Barbara Boston was nominated for a show that I was obsessed with back then, Murder One. She lost to Tyne Daly and Chrissy, but fantastic performance and nominated. But then you think about there's some that were never nominated that still really irk me, particularly maybe controversially. I don't know if people don't agree, but I think Kelly Riley in Yellowstone should have been nominated for at least one or two of those seasons. What an incredible character, and she's coming back soon um, with the spin-off of Yellowstone now that Kevin Costner has moved on. And there are three sci-fi actresses who I really feel like should have been nominated back in the day. They didn't have a chance in hell, but I'm going to say it anyway. Mira Furlan, the late Mira Furlan from Babylon 5, Nana Visitor from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, who is now an accomplished TV director, and Marina Sirtis, but not for TNG, but for Picard, the recent reunion season. She was stunning in that, and she should have been nominated. Okay, Emmys, naughty. But my number one, I'm so surprised that no one brought this up. And so I'm really excited that I get to now talk about Cameron Manheim winning for The Practice season two in 1998 for playing Eleanor Frutt, where she gets up there and she says, "This is for all the fat girls." Like, what a moment. What a fucking moment was that. And also, not only was it a cool moment, and I just remember how it really resonated with people, because she was like an ordinary person. She had a million earrings. She was a bit overweight, whatever. She was fat. Who cares? She was the first person to admit that. But people loved that character. Eleanor Frutt was such an awesome character on The Practice. And season two, you remember The Practice was a mid-season replacement. It was like a short season, and it started to make a bit of noise. But when season two came out, people in the fall, people were obsessed. It really became the show, and that was the season where there was Joey Herrick, played by John Larroquette, who also won in guest, and it's just an incredible show. And I've tried to rewatch it over the years. Personally, I don't think it completely holds up as much as I remember it should, but it's still great. And Eleanor Frutt was one of the greatest characters of all time. I'm very happy that she won that Emmy. It was the beginning of The Practice's very impressive run at the Emmys in the late 90s and early 2000s. And so, yeah, that's my number one. Well, we didn't have as much overlap as I thought.
And I very much remember vividly that season having that unbelievable reveal of who the killer nun was.
Yes.
And to me, I mean, again, old. So I was in my little studio apartment in college, and when the camera comes back and they reveal that the killer nun is George, this dude that Eleanor had been seeing.
Oh my God.
And I immediately got on my corded telephone and called my parents and said, "Did you just watch The Practice?" Because there was no DVR or anything like that. So you were watching, and talk about water cooler conversation. That's what we talked about at work. We'd go into work and go, "Did you watch The Practice last night? Can you believe who the killer nun is?" Bravo.
Do you remember the actor who played George? And he wasn't nominated. He should have been. I'll have to look it up. But The Practice had some of the best guest actors They were always in the mix. And like Michael Emerson, there's a whole bunch of them. But that actor, I wonder what he's done recently because he was so
His name
compelling.
is his name is Michael Monks,
That's the
and
one.
he was
Yeah.
George Vogelman. George
Oh my
Vogelman.
God, you bring back so many memories. Listen, that was a great show. That was a really good list, guys. I'm really glad that we didn't have too much overlap. So we'll do the men of the drama series, supporting acting race next week. But in the meantime, everybody, there's so much going on in award season. Okay, Emmys Phase One is here. We're ready. We're into it. Stick with us. We've got so much more coming. Plenty of things going on at Awards Heaven. So stick around. Write to us at awardsheaven@gmail.com. Maybe we'll read your letter on the show. We probably will if it's good. And if you've got a top 5 recommendation, we want to hear it. And then we will read out yours as well. Like, follow, subscribe. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on Substack. We're on social media. Okay. And thank you again for joining us all. Thank you, Charlie and Tony. And we'll see you all next week. And for now, bye.